I'm here with a voice you may recognize, the voice of Canyon Sports and the voice of the multimedia coordinator, Matt Robinson. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm pretty good. Overall, first question, can you give me a little bit of a background check on more about Matt Robinson?
Oh, in terms of just me personally, I guess, I started here as a Cougar News student and was actually kind of just chance to come here. I was working at Six Flags Magic Mountain, which we were just talking about before this, and actually met Bob Miller and Nick Nixon, who are the LA Kings play-by-play guys, and I always liked hockey, so I decided to try and get into doing play-by-play, and wound up finding the program here, found Dave, and Dave then challenged me to learn how to do all sorts of other stuff, and that's kind of where we've led to now. And as I've gotten older, we get to work here, and it's nice. I get to see my wife a little bit more. I get to see my daughter a little bit more. We live up in Lancaster with our my wife's 5 horses and our 2 dogs, and we just kind of hang out and chill and have some fun. We're both COC alums, so it's nice to be back here and help out a place that helped us out so much.
Sounds awesome overall. Do you enjoy what you do?
Oh yeah, it's a blast. I mean, how can it not be? You get to call games. You get to, I get to edit, which is actually what I got started at ABC7 in. That's I'd worked at ABC7 for a while. I still do freelance there on occasion. I got into editing, and so now with this new position as a multimedia coordinator, half my job is doing our live streams on the Cougar Sports Network, which we do around 80 of them a year. Every sport. We added tennis this year for the first time. The only things we don't hit are track and field, cross country, and swim and dive, because we just haven't figured out a way to logistically handle those yet. But when I'm not doing that, I'm working on all sorts of multimedia projects, mostly editing and voiceovers. I get to use a little bit of the camera work as well. Right now we're working on something pretty cool for graduation coming up on the 6th. We have a nice little piece that we're working on. We're going to have that ready to go for graduation day on the 6th. So, but we do commercials and any sort of promotional stuff. We've been doing some stuff on YouTube, Canyon Shorts. So it's a blast. I mean, you get to do what you like. It's not a day. It's not work.
That sounds awesome. Sounds like the dream right there. You say you freelance for ABC7 still?
Yes, I do.
Do you ever announce for ABC7 or just do?
No, just I work in the back, basically. I work as a multimedia, or not a multimedia coordinator, excuse me. I work as a media manager when I'm there at ABC7. So editing, making sure show clips are in their proper places and ready to go, making sure they don't have anything illicit or bad words, bad, video. We don't like to show blood and guts and gore and all that stuff on TV, so make sure those are all clean. Occasionally I'll work in transmission where you're making sure the live shots are all good on air. I've been known to be a writer. I've been known to write sports there. I've been known to direct occasionally, so it was kind of just, I was always a guy that was, let's do whatever you guys need me to do and just try and make it something full. And that's kind of how I've worked into here as well. Same kind of concept. I kind of do whatever you guys need me to do, and we'll figure it out from there. So
yeah. Sounds like you have quite the grueling schedule.
Not as much anymore. It's pretty simple now. So come here and do some stuff and go home and see the family.
Hey, so I guess that's how you keep it straight.
Yep.
Right there. You just you come here, go home.
Yep.
For someone who wants to do this for a living, what are 3 things, like 3 pieces of advice you would give them?
In terms of just media in general, or are you looking more for play-by-play stuff?
Play-by-play.
Play-by-play? Well, the first thing is you just need reps. Like, you just need to find a way to get reps, right? It's a hard industry. There's very limited jobs. It's, not one that you're just going to walk right into and get reps. So you need to find a way to get reps yourself. A lot of that is, hustle and grind, trying to find teams that maybe need somebody or looking for somebody. Sometimes it's just doing things on your phone at home while you're watching a game. That's actually how, I got lucky. I like I said, I met Bob Miller and Nick Nixon, both Hall of Famers. They kind of gave me some ideas and some advice, but I got lucky that I knew the hockey manager here when the hockey team was still going on, and I had played for the team, and they were actually looking to start a live stream. So that's how I actually got my first reps, was doing hockey. I'd never done a game before in my life, and just did a couple of games. I was nervous as could be, but I had a blast. So you have to find reps. That's the hardest thing. You have to be willing to talk. And in terms of play-by-play, it's not necessarily having an opinion, but it's being able to articulate what's happening in front of you on the field of play or on the rink, wherever the case may be, and being able to voice things that are happening so people at home that maybe aren't watching the game directly still can understand what's happening. So you have to be willing to talk. That's a big part. You can't just be quiet. And then it's just, like I said, it's kind of a grind. You have to be willing to take, crummy jobs for not a lot of money and just work your way up and not get discouraged. There's always going to be people that are, they don't like what you're doing, and there's going to be people that do like what you're doing. It's just the nature of the business. It doesn't matter what you do in media. That's what it's going to be. So, you have to, like I said, you have to grind. You have to kind of just find your way and work hard for reps and create ways to get reps. One of the ways I did that was learning how to do all this other stuff, learning how to put together a live stream with, whether it's just through OBS Studio on your laptop, or now I have an A10 Mini with a Hyperdeck shuttle, and I do all sorts of other extra stuff through Companion and try and bounce things around. So you have to create a way for yourself to get those reps, and the more things the more knowledge you have, the easier chance you have at getting that type of stuff.
Well, that's a great answer right there. You were for Canyons News between around 2013, 2015 as a student around that area.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
How was that experience for you, and how did that make you the reporter you are today?
I mean, it was an excellent experience. I don't think anybody would go wrong by going through that. It really taught me a lot about myself in terms of what I liked, what I didn't like. I had mentioned, Dave challenged me to learn everything in the industry that I possibly could. And, it started out, I figured out I liked editing. Obviously I came in wanting to be a play-by-play guy and wanting to just do sports. And like the first thing Dave said to me was, that's great. This is a great goal, but why don't we learn how to do all this other stuff first? So it really made me well-rounded and gave me the options to move forward with things, and allowed me to take a job at SCV TV as a sports director, but also work on news while I was there. Take a job at ABC7 as just an editor and transform that into writing for news, writing for sports, working in transmission, directing on occasion. So the experience, hands down, here gave me those opportunities, because without that chance to come here and cut my teeth and make mistakes and make errors, which is a big thing. Like, you're going to make mistakes even at the top level, even when you're at market 2, right? If you finally work your way up to that, you're going to make mistakes. It's how to deal with those mistakes. And then the more of those you can get out of the way when you're learning, the better. Because once you get into a paid position and the stakes are real there, now you get into a little bit more trouble, and people don't trust you with things quite as much. But, coming here and learning how to shoot and learning how to write, learning how to edit, learning how to produce, it was huge. It was huge for my ability to kind of move on and kind of sparked that creativity, I should say, for me to be able to bounce it into other things and kind of give me the confidence to say, yeah, I can do whatever you guys ask me to do. I'll figure it out. I might not know what I'm doing right away, but give me a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and we'll be fine. I'll catch up to speed. So I can't say enough about the program here for Canyons News. It was a blast. We had some great times. We had some good friends. We sat a lot in one of the rooms right over here that's no longer the control room, but it used to be. And boy, I'd be here till 10, 11 o'clock Monday and Tuesday nights, and Dave would finally yell at me to go home and go see your wife. And I'd be like, well, we got stuff to do. He goes, wait till tomorrow. Go see your wife. So, I owe a lot to him and Ron Entrikin, who were really instrumental in helping me move along and get to a better place.
Yeah, the program does a lot for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Definitely did a lot for you, it seems. Mm-hmm. So you've went around through a bunch of different jobs overall.
Yep.
I have a big question on a job I'm very curious about. Is it true you were an assistant coach for a baseball team?
I was an assistant coach for a baseball team for a full year at my wife's school at Oakwood Secondary. It was the first year the baseball program came back. I'd played high school baseball at Canyon High School, and then I stopped playing after my senior year. I just didn't have a great experience in high school. Didn't get to play as much as I thought I should have been able to play, which, turns out probably the right thing. But, at the end of the day, it just wasn't something I had enjoyed. When I came here, I started playing hockey, but I'd always kept that passion and that love for baseball. I love watching the Dodgers. outside of the LA Kings and USC football, the Dodgers are one of the teams that I always watch. So yeah, I coached for a year, and it was an experience. Oakwood is not a supremely athletic school. They try. They've gotten a lot better over the last number of years. But when we started, it was rough sledding to get that baseball team going once again. And we had some guys on the team that didn't know how to catch a baseball, like playing high school baseball, not knowing how to catch a baseball. It was interesting. We had kids that they're very smart at Oakwood. A lot of kids that tried to find a workaround for the rules. I remember at one point, one kid, Max, who was a great kid. He's one of the ones that didn't know how to catch. He was catching a ball by squeezing his fingers together instead of using the webbing. But it was one of our first games, and there was a batter interference call. And he turned and he looked at me and he goes, "What happened?" And I goes, "Catcher's interference call, excuse me." And he goes, "What happens? What happened?" And I go, "Well, the catcher's glove got in the way of the hitter, so the hitter gets first base." He goes, "Well, why don't I just do that when I go up there?" And I just looked at him like, "Max, just hit the ball, man. We're not here to try and cheat our way around. We're trying to play the game for real, learn how to play the game." So it was fun. It was interesting. It was nice to get back into baseball a little bit, but I don't think I ever want to go back to coaching. It's just not for me. Maybe my daughter, if she starts playing sports, I might coach that, but just for fun, but not as a full-time gig.
That was going to be my next question. If you were considering going back to coaching at some point,
not anytime soon. Maybe if Marin, my daughter, gets into hockey again, maybe I'd try and find a way to jump behind the bench. That was always my first love of hockey, and that's the sport I know better than anything else. So, but highly unlikely. I kind of just want to be a parent that watches and enjoys and sits by himself over off into the corner if she ends up playing sports. But most likely she's going to end up being a barrel racer, because that's what her mommy does when we have the horses on property. So, I'll just sit there and watch and try and enjoy the 15 to 17 seconds that she runs around the barrels on a horse, and try not to think about all the money it costs to do all that stuff.
Yeah. You mentioned hockey quite a bit. Was that the first sport you announced for?
That's the first sport I grew up playing hockey. I started when I was 4 here in California. I'm California born and raised, so I'm a weird kid in terms of that. And yeah, the first ever game I did was actually College of the Canyons. We were playing Santa Rosa, maybe? I can't remember who I played. The tape has long been lost, probably burned in some sort of a fire. Maybe not, but I don't know. But the tape has been long lost. It was actually, we did it on basically a radio webcast, and that was the first ever game I did. I did like 5 games maybe for COC in that season, because the general manager at the time, Jim Schrage, and the head coach, John Taffner, I'd played for them, so I'd known them and kind of got working through that, and then had stopped doing games because I was still working at Magic Mountain at the time. And turns out that I was refereeing in the Western States Hockey League, and the broadcaster for the Valencia team, Brent Maranta, who I knew through working at Magic Mountain, who's now actually a police officer, but at the time he was a lifeguard at Six Flags in the summertime. He and I had known each other because he had seen me out on the rink, and Brent used to like to yell at me, for fun. We all had a good time. We were all hockey guys. Nobody takes it personally. But I caught wind of him leaving, and I asked him about it. He said, "Yeah, sure, I'll talk to the guy for you." And he's young to the game. So I got hired there, and I did Flyers games until the team folded when the pandemic happened. So, hockey was a lot of fun. I wish I could get back into it, but that doesn't mean I dislike what I'm doing here. Football, baseball, basketball, soccer, volleyball, softball, and tennis are all wonderful, and it's fun to have a different mix of things. So I could challenge myself on a regular basis and try and remember how to do different sports pretty much week in and week out. So I wouldn't have it any other way at this point. Maybe one day we'll add a hockey team again and I can go back to doing that, but for now I'm pretty content and satisfied with where we're at.
Oh, absolutely. That sounds really awesome. Like going from all that. Mm-hmm. Hockey's your favorite sport to
yeah.
for.
Well, and it's challenging to call too. I mean, it's fast paced. You don't have a lot of time to, think about what you're going to say. You just have to speak. It has to go out. And if you don't know the game, hockey people are quickly going to judge you. It's just the way the sport is. There was a lot of it with ESPN and Sean McDonough. I talk about Sean McDonough obviously at the top level at ESPN, but when ESPN started to first pick hockey back up, McDonough was doing it, and McDonough hadn't done hockey in a lot of years, and there was a lot of negative comments towards his play-by-play, which I obviously, being in that seat, like, I know how hard it is. I thought he was doing a great job, but I had a lot of friends, a lot of people that I know that were like, oh, I can't stand listening to this. ESPN's done a terrible job. Why didn't they just have Steve Levy come do it? Because Levy had done hockey for a lot of years, so he was a voice for hockey for ESPN for a lot of time. But it's very challenging if you don't know the game or don't sound like you know the game. People really get flustered when it comes to hockey for some reason. I don't know why. I wish we wouldn't. I wish we would just accept and enjoy. The same can be said at times with baseball and basketball and football, but I think those have just a slight bit more leeway, but that's because those sports are a little less paced than hockey is, so a little less nuanced in some of those types of things. So it's interesting. It's fun. Like I said, I wish I could get back to it. I love the game. I still watch. I want to get back to playing. It's just hard. It's an expensive sport in California. So, but it'd be great to get back to that one day, but not something I'm necessarily working towards. Like I said, I'm really happy doing everything we do here and trying to build something with our sports information director, Jesse Munoz. We really have a push behind the live streams. It's something that we're really striving to make better and try and be the best school in the state for that and make it to a point where other schools are trying to emulate what College of the Canyons is doing. And that's always going to be the goal for us here.
Oh, absolutely. Right before you came back to COC, did you commentate for a couple years at another school, Antelope Valley?
Yes, I was doing the University of Antelope Valley for a few years. And that was it was interesting. It was just basketball. There was no football. It was basketball, soccer, baseball, and softball, and volleyball. And it was interesting. It was a different league, different level. It's not junior college where it's just freshmen and sophomores. There's, it's a 4-year. It was a 4-year. It's no longer around. They actually they closed down just after the pandemic. It was a whole nother situation. They sold the school, and then I won't get into that. But it was an interesting situation. It was, you call games, you kind of go out and you do some things, and it was fun. Like, it was different. Like we said, we had sophomores, we had freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, so it was the full gamut. They play in the NAIA. They did play in the NAIA, which is the same as the Masters University. Vanguard as well, or a couple of local schools that are around there. So it was fun. We get some different teams come in. Occasionally we get teams from Oregon and Utah and Washington would all come down. Arizona would come out, and it was interesting to see. It's a much different dynamic in the 3C2A than it is in the NAIA. So, but yeah, I did some games for UAV in a couple years, and it was fun to be in a regular baseball stadium on occasion. We play our games at Jethawk Stadium, so that was cool, which is now no longer a baseball stadium. It's actually a soccer stadium now. AV Alta FC has taken that over, which is interesting. So, but it was fun. Another spot where I just got a chance to grow and learn and really come into my own as a broadcaster in terms of the play-by-play. And you're always kind of trying to grow and learn. If you're not trying to do that, you're not going to make it very far. You have to try and get better because it's an ever-changing and ever-evolving spot. You're going to have to find new ways to say the same thing over and over again. So it was fun. It was a good time. I met some cool people. The sports information director there, I still talk to on occasion. He's now off in the Midwest, just hanging out. Him and his wife work from their trailer. So Monroe was a fun guy to hang out with. We had a good time together. So.
You say you're really happy with where you are at for COC and all that. You have any goals moving forward, or?
I think I mentioned it. It's just we're always, Jesse Munoz and I are always working on trying to make our program, especially in the athletic side of things. Obviously, we both have an overarching view of the college itself. In terms of the athletic stuff, we're always trying to make ourselves the model. We want to model how our website looks. We want to be the model on how our live streams look. We want to be the model on how our photography looks, which we have great photographers. Carla, who's one of our interns, has done a good job. Ben as well has done a great job. Valerie has been one of our interns. I don't know their last names, unfortunately, off the top of my head. We had Mari Kneisel, who was actually the all-time leading goal scorer, point getter, assist maker, games played in women's soccer here at College of the Canyons. She was our photographer for a long time, but she's now actually in a new role here at the college in public information, where I spend the majority of my day. So our goal is to always make ourselves the example for everyone else in the state. It may not always be the case. There are always going to be people that we have to pull from and try and do things, but we're always trying to strive to be better and be the best in the state. And that's just, it's hard to do. There's a lot of schools in the state and a lot of schools that do a lot of great stuff. But, our goal, especially when it comes to the live streams, or for me, for the live streams, I want to be the one to set the example for everybody else. I want to have it so that people look at it and go, man, we really need to get on College of the Canyons level, because that just makes me better. Why other people trying to catch us and chase us down or even be ahead of us is just going to make me better, and it's going to bring more attention to the great student athletes we have here in Southern California that I think don't get a lot of attention. Like, these kids work hard in school, they work hard out on the field, they get to go on to four-year universities afterwards, and I'm just happy to be a small part of that and get the opportunity to showcase their talents and their abilities while I get to do something I love to do. So, we have a great time doing that. And like I said, the goal is to just always, we want to be the model for everybody else. It's not always going to be the case, but that's the plan and that's the goal. So we'll see where we get. One day I'd like to get on ESPN. I think that's my super long-term vision. We'll see if we get there. It requires a lot more money and a lot more funding, but I'd like to be on ESPN Plus. Like, I was watching the NJCAA baseball championships today, and I'd like to be in that level at some point. So we'll see if we can get there, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a dream of mine myself. So I hope you do get there, especially if you're working towards that. But overall, the mentality you have for COC's program is the mentality everybody should want to have. So
we try that. Our whole office, the public information office in general, is very much like that. We're always trying to be the model for everybody else. It's not always going to be the case, but we really try hard. We have a lot of great people in there. Stephanie Corral is an excellent writer. Wendy Trujillo, our marketing manager, is phenomenal. Jesse Munoz, our public relations and sports information director, is great. And we have great leadership in Eric Harnish, who's our vice president of public information. He is, he allows us to do these things. So, and I already mentioned Mari, she's phenomenal as well. So, and, goes down to the graphics department with Nick Pavick and all his group. John Green, as our managing director. We have a lot of people that don't get seen out in front of the thing, but are doing a lot behind the scenes to try and help the college, and we get a lot of leeway to do a lot of fun things. So we're hopefully going to get to that one day where we are the model for everybody in the state of California. We'll see if we get there, but we try every day. So there's a lot of hard people working here to try and make College of the Canyons the best it possibly can be.
Yeah, well, that's all the questions I have for you today, but that's a great last answer overall. I love that mentality you have, and I definitely agree. COC will definitely get there, but I love that mentality. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. No problem, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.